One planet, 7.3 billion people, only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Marc's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live. For more information on Marc's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marclainhart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Evening, wherever you may be in this beautiful, transforming planet of ours. This is Metaphysical Mocha Mondays. I am your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest of Seattle, Washington. Happy Monday morning to you. I picked this day on purpose. Monday is usually a very low vibration day. I've been doing Metaphysical Mocha Mondays, which is inspiration, encouragement, motivation, mindfulness, meditation, mediumship, metaphysical concepts. I've been doing this for 3 seasons now, 3 years. And I picked this day specifically on Mondays to set the tone, to inspire you for the week ahead, get you thinking outside the box, maybe take a different direction in your life, or transform. And today's message, we're going to be talking about time, trauma, and turbulation that triggers the transformations in your own truth. So we'll take about the next 30 minutes, and then after the show is over, we go right into the Healing Cafe right here on the Intuitive Prospector page. So if you're coming back as a follower of the page, thank you so much. Cheers to you. If you're new to the page, go ahead and turn on the like, subscribe, share, turn on notifications, throw some stars at the show, which helps me keep the coffee funds going. Always go with donations for the show, just for the fact this is also my way of paying it forward and giving it back each and every week with the abilities that I have been gifted and afforded to share with people all around the world. If you want to learn more about what I'm doing here in Seattle, visit me at marclainhart.com or internet search the Intuitive Prospector. It's from that site that you can get to all my different things that I'm doing in life, whether it's my latest article, my latest newsletter, Soul Adventures, my latest podcast that's coming up this Wednesday. We're going to be talking about this exact subject on Inspired Living Radio. You can ask to open up Positive Living and on your Alexa or Echo Pod and get spiritual daily tips from me and amazing other colleagues. What else am I got going on? I got an interview coming up. I got 2 interviews coming up. I'm going to be talking about on May 10th, and another one that I'm writing an email out right now, kind of for that interview. So lots of good stuff coming up for the Intuitive Prospector and the work that we're doing, the spiritual transformations and finding that diamond within that we're doing. What else do I have coming up? Oh boy, got an event coming up on June 10th, Mediumship. Got an event coming up this Wednesday for my spiritual development group. It's going to be open and free to the public. If you want to possibly get a message on mediumship, go to my events page at the Intuitive Prospector page and click on events, and you'll see spiritual development group, public demonstration, mediumship. We're going to do a divine service as well. That starts this Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you have to check your local times. Open to the public, and some of my students are going to be working on their mediumship and trusting the spirit. And if you come in, you may not only, I guarantee you'll get inspired and healing, but you may also get a reading from one of the up and coming mediums that I'm working with and training and mentoring. And good morning to my team behind the scenes. It helps manage the page and keeps me going and inspires me to volunteer their time to help me do this show each and every week. And again, we're here every Monday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we go into the Healing Cafe right at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Times are always a little bit different, so it just depends. I was a little late this morning because my coffee wasn't brewing. So this morning I wanted to talk about time, trauma, turbulence that triggers the transformations and truth of your life. And what do I mean by that? So there's a couple quotes I want to read from just about transformation and what transformation is all about. And I'm going to start first by Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend." And I truly believe that. And the world that we live in right now is full of hate. It's full of divide. It's full of difference of opinions. Last year I saw it for what it was, and I called it, I predicted it. And we need to move more into love. We need to move more into forgiveness. We need to move away from the ego and start to transform ourselves through grace and forgiveness and love, so that we don't go down a road that is full of hatred and violence and negative, poor, dark things. My family, when I first came into spiritualism, I was always raised in a religious fashion for Catholicism and following the Catholic religion. Not following, actually, it was mandated. I had to. I didn't really have a choice at the time. And that's where I first learned about the concepts of God. But then my family was impacted in very dark, traumatic times. And I didn't realize it all those years ago that over time, my transformation and my truth of who I am, my authentic self, would start to emerge like a butterfly emerging from a cocoon. And it was with those traumas and tragedies, or what I call the TNT, that really started to change my belief system in God, the neuroplasticity of my brain, and it opened me up to connect what is unseen, to the spirit world. Mediumship, psychic, awareness, intuition, just a sense of knowing stuff before it happens. And it was a very uncomfortable place to be for a few years as I started to transform. But transforming isn't about adding more work to your life. It's about shifting your perspective so life becomes more fun, magical, and joyful. And during those dark times when my brother was murdered with violence and victim was of violent crimes, and he was murdered execution style in a drug deal gone bad. And again, the drug at the time was marijuana. And look at time. If you look over time, this is 20 years ago. That time now, marijuana, cannabis is legal in over 34 states around the nation, including here in Washington State. So he was actually killed at the time for something that's now legal. That's that transformation that I'm talking about. But again, we were first impacted by violence, by a crime gone wrong during the daylight on a Sunday afternoon of all things. And during that same week, my brother was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, what we call glioblastoma. And what that did is it started to transform me to do the work that I do today, including this show, including the readings I do with people all around the world, including Inspired Living Radio, including opening up your Alexa and saying, open up positive living to get spiritual tips, because I started to see a world of magic. I started to see a world of metaphysics, a world of pseudoscience, which means you can't prove it, but you can't disprove it either. And it really I brought a lot of questions up in my mind, because I really come from a logical, analytical background and a career of life saving. So you didn't have time for metaphysics. You didn't have time for the woo woo. And what happens was that transformation over time, through the trauma and through the turbulence, which we all go through. You know, you may not have had a brother that was murdered and another brother diagnosed with brain cancer in the same week like I did, but I guarantee you somewhere along your journey, you have come into your own turbulence, your own trauma, your own tragedies. And it really is up to you if you want to transform that or not. There was a poem that I posted on the Intuitive Prospector page, which I felt was very relevant for today. And it's actually a quote from Bob Marley, where he says, "The problem today is people don't cherish good people. They try to use them." And we're in a place of people, you know, it's a dog eat dog world out there. It's a Shark Tank. I get it. But I really, even doing this work in the spiritual community, I've seen a lot of backstabbing and gossiping and competition to try to be the best, spiritual medium or psychic you can be. And I've never really understood that, because the only person you should ever be in competition with, you guys, is yourself. Always trying to be the better version. And I always tell people when they get into that ego, narcissistic behavior, you can't compete with me, because I want to see everybody be successful. I want to see everybody, have a healthy, healing, joyful life, because I've seen a lot of dark in the world, and I try to bring that light. And what Bob Marley said back in the day is very much true. The other one is the other thing I posted on the Intuitive Prospector page, or it might have been on my personal page, was it's a poem, and it says, "This, my dear, is the greatest challenge of being alive." And something I've had to see this last few years, the greatest challenge of being alive, doing the spiritual work, is to witness the injustices of the world. And we're seeing a lot of injustices, but we're also seeing the transformation of justice. You look at the George Floyd case, the murder of George Floyd, and how that, guilty, 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 and how that's going to start a historical transformation. Look at how we're moving into space. Look at this pandemic and how it's changing us from being in isolation, the digital transformation. These are all big transformations as we move into robotics, artificial intelligence, everything I've been talking about and predicting about and writing about in our roaring 20s. This pandemic is going to transform us forever. Some are already calling it the digital transformation. Even how we go into the office, those days of going to the office for 5 days, 9 to 5, those days are gone. You'll have some sort of hybrid, some sort of virtual work, but people are going to see that, and they've now been introduced to that, and they're not going to go back to that. It's interesting when you talk about pandemics and how pandemics transform societies. Even if you go to history past, you'll learn from some of the greatest pandemics that we learned a lot about that pandemic that changed us. For example, healthcare became better after the 1918 Great Influenza Flu, also called inaccurately the Spanish flu. But healthcare we became more mindful of how we use protective gear in the early 1900s. Even after the Black Plague of the 14th century, the poor actually, if you go back and look at history, the poor actually received better living standards. They were able to demand more of their working conditions and their pay based off the Black Plague, which also gave us, Newton's theory of gravity. It was during that plague that he discovered gravity and the theory of gravity, the apple falling on his head. So there's going to be a lot of great things from this pandemic of the younger generation coming up with new concepts. Even look at education online now, the transformations that are taking place. When I was in the Coast Guard, I had my AA degree, and I was taking to finish up my bachelor's in business management at the University of Phoenix, so I could still be in the service and be on active duty and still go to college. And I remember a couple people saying to me, "Mark, that online college thing will never work. I mean, I know it's an accredited college, but it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to ever take." Don't listen to those people. Don't listen to those naysayers, because if you look at today, a lot of people, including high school kids, go to college and go to high school online. I can actually go right now and apply to go to Yale online and get a college degree from Yale. Who would have thought a poor Hilliard rat from Spokane would ever be able to attend to go to Hilliard. And I just completed a course at Stanford in writing. So who would have thought? So again, don't limit yourself, and don't listen to the pundits, don't listen to the critics, don't listen to the skeptics, because your transformation is about you. Your transformation from your turbulence, your trials, your tribulations, your traumas. Give it time, because eventually that time, if you move into the magic and you move into the transformation, you're going to discover that diamond within, and you're going to start to find the truth that's right for you, your authentic self. I always remind people, no pressure, no diamond. And it's funny, because I came to the diamond concept not even thinking about my birthstone of April, which is this month, is the month of April is the diamond. And so it's interesting that how everything has kind of the Intuitive Prospector, which I thought was a stupid name at the very beginning, to be honest with you. I'm like, intuitive, but I believe that intuitive is a word that I use in modern times that helps us to have the understanding of our own language. Your intuition is your own spiritual language, whether that's psychic, whether that's mediumship, whether that's healing, whether that's life coaching, whether that's public speaking. That is finding your diamond within. But remember, if there's no pressure, there's no diamond. And some people can choose to remain that piece of coal in that dark space. But I guarantee you, if you use your traumas, your trials, your tribulations, the TNT that blows your life up, and you give it time to unfold, and you have patience and you trust, it's going to trigger transformations in your truth to eventually that coal that's in the dark emerges from the mine of earth and your life, and you become this brilliant diamond that refracts and reflects and shines bright like a diamond, and you're in the light helping others. So transformation means, to me, reassessing and then taking action and redefining and remodeling me to the best of my ability, not to somebody else's, to my ability. Change is inevitable, but transformation is the conscious choice. Remember that. Change is always going to take place, and we're seeing the changes, we're seeing the transformations take place on many different levels, from society to space to politics to pandemic, to inner workings of your family life, inner workings of your friendships. You may have seen your family and friendship relationships change over these last year and a half, 2 years. I know it has for me in some pretty amazing ways, and in what people support and follow, that's fine, but I don't need to be friends with people like that support fascism, racism, misogyny, bigotry. No judgment. I just am simplifying my life, because that's part of my transformation, and holding myself accountable not to mix with misery. Misery loves company, or mix with people that don't have a moral compass or a moral standard, and let them go about their way. And again, come from a place of love, forgiveness, and grace, and love them from a distance. And that's what everybody can do. Just because they're your family doesn't mean you have to have a relationship with them. It comes back to Maya Angelou when she said, "We delight in the beauty of the butterfly, but we rarely admit the change it has gone through to achieve that beauty." Think about that for a second. I always talk about the caterpillar going into the cocoon, coming out as a butterfly, and we delight in that beauty of the butterfly, right? But we rarely admit the changes that it goes through to achieve that beauty. And if you follow science like I do, I'm a big spiritualist, and I'm a big science guy, the scientific method, logical thinking, analytical thinking, but also merging it with the spiritual side, the metaphysics side, the physics. We always say spiritualism is what physics hasn't yet caught up to. And there's all sorts of news. If you watch just some of the news that I do, I follow more of the smart news, not the actual news cycles. There's a lot of stuff that's coming out from a science base. It's really changing how we interact, how we see the world, how we see ourselves, how we see medicine, how we see health, how we see this pandemic. And we do delight in the beauty of the butterfly and in all that it is, but we forget that the caterpillar literally deliquefies itself in the cocoon. It literally deliquefies, it reliquefies. I always think of it like coming out of the womb. You're breathing liquid, and then all of a sudden you're breathing air. And then through this very tight, pressurized cocoon, it's trying to get out. It struggles. I want to give up. I want to give up. I want to give up. But it doesn't give up. And life is a lot like that, you guys. Don't give up. Keep going. This pandemic, I said by May and June, we'll start to round the curve, which we will. We're already showing the science and the data. I work for the University of Washington Harborview Medical Center here in Seattle, and I can tell you from the data I have seen and follow, and it's been accurate all the way since Seattle started this back over a year ago and was the first city to shut down. We're seeing positive signs of the death rate, mortality rate dropping. The cases are not increasing. They're staying steady right now, but eventually once everybody gets vaccinated or continues to observe the CDC regulations of washing your hands, social distancing, wearing a mask. I know some people out there, won't wear a mask, but that goes back throughout history, guys. There were anti-maskers and anti-vaccinators during the polio era, during the influenza period. That's just part of life. But do what's right for you and trust your intuition. You don't even take my word for it. Trust your intuition and know that, the stronger you listen to that inner voice, the better decisions in the external world that you're going to start to make. And that includes with relationships, your career, your health, who you are, because that's part of transformation. But transformation is not easy, but we love to delight in the beauty of the butterfly, but rarely admit the changes or the struggles that we all go through. And science and psychology also shows us that as we emerge from this pandemic after being in isolation for, well, over a year now, 14 months, 15 months that we've been in this pandemic, this is where people really have problems reemerging. We've seen it with the gun violence, the shootings, the hate crimes in the Asian community, in the Black community, the fights, even at basketball games. Some of the videos I watch, I'm just like, wow, we are really an angry society, because that's part of transformation. And we only come to consciousness through pain and trauma and tragedies. That's what really gets us to awaken. It's interesting. I've long thought if my brother wouldn't have been murdered all those years ago, and the loss of my brother to brain cancer, and then that same time frame, we had just lost my father-in-law to multiple sclerosis. I really wonder if those events, those traumas, those tragedies, that turbulence, if it would have triggered me to be here today with you talking about this type of topic, this type of subject, to be writing my articles, to be doing readings with people around the world, to be doing my radio show of 6 years of Inspired Living Radio, which I'm happy to announce has been picked up by Spotify and Google Podcasts and some major outlets of, the show being broadcasted on 10 or 12 different channels now. I never would have thought that, to be honest with you. That's part of giving it time. Time is a great component of this mathematical equation to trigger the transformations and to find your own truth. So the wings of transformation are born on patience and struggle. Remember that. The wings of transformation are born on patience and struggle. And Rumi, who I follow, if you follow Rumi like I have, who's a 12th century mystic from the area of the world what we would call Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq area, Rumi was a metaphysical mystic who always wrote about the consciousness, the struggle, the pain. And one of the things that I first read when I was in so much pain and so much grieving, going through the 5 murder trials that we had to go through, and the uncertainty of first who killed my brother. It was 4 months, almost 4 to 6 months before we found out who actually killed my brother, Michael. That uncertainty and that pain and that anger and that frustration. And I remember reading Rumi at that time going, the cure for the pain is the pain. And I didn't understand it. It didn't resonate with me because I hadn't given it time for my transformation, my authenticity, my diamond to emerge from that dark place as a piece of coal, to realize that the wings of transformation are born on patience and great struggle. So just remember that. If you're having a rough go today, give yourself time, give yourself patience, give yourself self-care. Surround yourself with people who inspire you, encourage you, and motivate you. Don't stay in the old habits, the old patterns that are negativity or self-sabotaging or bring you down to their level. Shine bright like a diamond. Transformation can only take place immediately. The revolution is now, not tomorrow. And you guys know with my work that I'm always teaching on the magic in the moment. The magic in the moment. And that's why I'm wearing my golf hat today, actually, to be honest with you. Because for me, golf is such a mindful game, because it's really, I go out with my buddies and we golf, but it's not really me against them. We do it on the scorecard, right? Because that's just, for drinks and lunch afterwards or dinner, or, if we're in Vegas, getting the next round. But it's really a game against yourself, to how you become the better version, how you hit this ball, how your focus drives this ball into a small hole, hundreds of yards away. And so that's why I'm wearing my hat today. My golf hat is a reminder that we need to give ourselves time, and we need to have acceptance and grace and forgiveness for the traumas, the tragedies, the turbulence that we're going through, whether it's right now in the current moment or even your past. Let your past go, because you struggle and you suffer your past if you're constantly bringing it with you. And give yourself time and patience to know that that struggle will trigger, those traumas and tragedies will trigger the transformation and the truth to find who you truly are and what you want to do in life. And on the radio show on Wednesday, I'll be going into more detail and giving tips, what I call the 7 spiritual B's, or the 7 spiritual steps, and words to remind you. I have them here. And then I'm also going to be sharing the FAR technique, FAARR, on how to get through some of the stuff that you're going through. So you'll want to tune into that show to get some of those steps. And just because I'm running out of time here, because we want to get ready for the Healing Cafe, because I'm only going to be doing the Healing Cafe today for about an hour, because remember, I talked about self-care. I've got my birthday massage coming up at 10 a.m. and I'm headed for a 2-hour massage to take care of me, self-care, to keep me going and to keep me inspired. So remember, transformation, you guys, isn't a future event. It's a present day activity. So what are you doing today to transform to the things and focus in on your reality? Because remember, your focus does determine your reality. And what are you doing today versus the future that's not guaranteed? The real transformation of society will only come in love, in work, and in stillness. And as we move forward, we're going through a lot of transformations, which is causing some great struggles for people. Because again, transformation is not always easy. That's why we call it growing pains or life lessons. Learning is that internal transformation, a change. It's about seeing yourself in the relation to the world differently. So think about that on your journey and how you may see yourself. And it's not always easy to find yourself in that place of transformation, because like I said, I questioned myself for 2 years, self-analyzed, like, what is all this stuff? Why is my brain being rewired through neuroplasticity, which science supports today? When I was growing up early in the 70s as a young child, the science at the time was that your brain got to a certain point, a certain age, and then it just stopped. It stopped learning, it stopped rewiring. We know that not to be the case anymore. Did a great show a couple weeks ago with a professor from Stanford where we talked about neuroplasticity. I've had a couple shows on Inspired Living Radio where we've talked about the science and the neuroplasticity that's opening us up to a more spiritual connection. I was watching the Oscars last night, and my documentary show, My Octopus Teacher, won for Best Documentary. If you've not seen it on Netflix, it is a fantastic story of a guy who had a relationship, a friendship with an octopus on the coast of South Africa, and he documented it for almost 3 years. It is spectacular. And like he said last night, part of our transformation and what we're going through, if he can have a friendship with an octopus, which by the way is an alien species, because I always remind people as a diver, when people ask me, have you seen an alien? I say, yes, I have, several times. And they go, really? And I go, yes, because the octopus is the only species on the planet that has DNA not related to any other creature on the planet. So if it's not related to any other creature on the planet, that means therefore it did not come from this planet. And so, yes, in a sense, it's an alien, and it's an intelligence. If you watch the behavior of an octopus, they're very intelligent. And if you watch this documentary, My Octopus Teacher, you'll really see that we're starting to open up and transform into what I've long talked about, the great transformation, the great awakening, and the great coming together. I know it doesn't seem like it now, but my visions, my predictions, my dreams, I have long talked about this great coming together. Just like I talked about the great global pause and the great global reset, I said that this pandemic would be with us close to 2 years. It'll be with us until 2022. There'll still be hot pockets. And I just want to send my thoughts and prayers to the people of India. On the other side of the planet, they're just being decimated by the COVID-19 virus right now. Healthcare system has collapsed. So I just wanted to, and anybody that's been impacted by COVID, of course, I've lost a friend and I've lost a couple colleagues already. Some of my family were, positive and got really sick from it, and still are. My sister's still suffering from the long haulers process of it. So, it's a real deal, but we also realize that the pandemics that we go through create great transformation. And that's why it's going to be a big part of our Roaring 20s. So I hope that you're being patient with yourself, that you're trusting yourself. Give it time and grace. Grace is not simply linear. When we have gone through a mistake or we've sinned, grace is the enabling gift of God, not to sin, but grace is the power, not just the pardon. And as we move forward with this great transformation, remember, real transformation requires real honesty. If you want to move forward, be real with yourself. And again, today's message is all about how time, trauma, turbulence can trigger the transformations in your own truth. So I'll leave it here. I'll get ready for the Healing Cafe. I'll see you guys here in just a few minutes in the Healing Cafe. Again, thanks for hanging out with me and having a cup of coffee. I got on my soapbox and didn't even have a drink of my coffee. So cheers to you. Have a great rest of your Monday and a great rest of your week and a great rest of your April. Can't believe we're already moving into May. And I'll see you over on the Healing Cafe. And again, if you want to work with me, go to marclainhart.com. Just internet search the Intuitive Prospector. You'll see all of my stuff pop up. marclainhart.com is the best one-stop shop to get to anything. Articles, radio show, newsletter, book a reading. I think I'm booked out until almost June now for readings. So good thing, but at the same time, I'd love to work with you and help you be a spiritual prospector in search of your own spiritual transformations, your own spiritual gold, and of course, your own spiritual healing. So I'm going to leave it there. Until our next soul adventure together, be kind, be caring, be compassionate, and most importantly, dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live, and discover that diamond within. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. Take care. Namaste.